at me. Don't, no, 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 go ahead. Look after your face. Whatever comes up there. There's a, yeah, everybody's gonna, they see, and that's, you'll see the same, the public will see that. There's a camera right there. If you have something you wanna show, you put it, camera looks down on it, it'll show up here, it'll show up for all the commissioners. That's what we met with. Super Bowl. 14 Yeah, we have a valve. We're at 55.2 right now, and we're 100 feet wide. We had 12 and a half with. And we got a new terminal there. Yes.
See, she thought about you that time.
What's wrong with it? That's right. You just help.
I've seen that.
It's not 6:30. It is now 6:30, and I would ask that you please stand for the invocation to be given by Chaplain Leonard Himes with Beulah Baptist Church, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Commissioners, administration, let's pray for this meeting. Our Father, we thank you, Lord, for your goodness. We're thankful, Lord, for your working in our lives and in the purpose of our county. I ask tonight that you would give wisdom and decisions that will need to be made and things presented, that things would be done decently and in order. We ask your hand to be on this night. Bless all involved, and we'll thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. Thank you. The meeting of the Board of Commissioners is now hereby called to order. Are there any, I do know that we're adding an item for technology services regarding a resolution to approve the purchase of peripheral computing equipment for Tyler ERP software development. And then we're removing item 7C regarding the bid award for the construction of the McDonough Parkway extensions. Are there any other revisions to the agenda? Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. We will now move to the consent agenda. We have several items here, and so these items are listed on our consent agenda. The first one is coming from Connecting Henry regarding a resolution to approve additional funding for the Family Connection Operating Grant for Connecting Henry from the Georgia Department of Human Services. For Senior Services, we have its first resolution request regarding the authorizing to surplus equipment through govdeals.com or through disposal if no bids are received. The other senior services resolution is regarding the request to approve the agent sub-grant contract between the Atlanta Region Commission and the Henry County Board of Commissioners for fiscal year 2018-2019. We have two public safety resolutions. One, a resolution authorizing the disposal of seized and unclaimed property held by the Henry County Police Department and authorizing the auction of said items with propertyroom.com per Resolution 1766. And then another public safety resolution authorizing the retention of seized, unclaimed, and abandoned currency in the amount of $2,078.15. We have a transit resolution requesting authorization, acceptance of contract for transportation services provided to elderly and disabled individuals through the Georgia Department of Human Services Grant 41 for the FY 2019 Grant 41. We have an item under the SPLOS requesting a resolution authorizing the chair to execute all necessary documents for conveyance of fixed assets relating to the water line and compact fire line at Fire Station Number 16 at the Henry County Water Authority. And then we have two Department of Transportation resolutions, and the first one is a resolution approving speed humps on Rowan Road and Ellenwood, and then the other one is a resolution approving speed humps on North Davis Drive in Stockbridge, Georgia. Are there any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Well, this ends our consent agenda. We'll move directly now into our public hearing for our planning and zoning items, and the first one that we have is in District 4 from Siler Jackson of Stockbridge, Georgia, appealing the denial of a conditional use request for a pet daycare / non-commercial kennel, and we'll ask Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill to make that presentation.
Good evening, Chair Wood, Commissioners.
Good evening.
The request before you tonight is in the Hickory Lake subdivision. It's indicated in this hatched green area that's illustrated on your overhead and also in your exhibit books. This request is in the vicinity of Highway 138 and Old Conyers Road. The property is zoned RA, and the applicant is requesting a conditional use to be able to board animals and to have a pet daycare. Staff evaluated the request. We've noted the characteristics of the site. The property is toward the back of Hickory Lake subdivision. The property abuts property that is not yet developed. The property is 3 acres in size, so that's one of the things that we noted. Illustrated is the survey for the subject property. You can see that it's indicated to be heavily wooded. The applicant has submitted a preliminary conceptual site plan that does show the location of the runs for the animals and so forth. The pictures that staff has taken also indicate that the property is indeed heavily wooded. We have received phone calls, we've received emails from concerned citizens who have expressed opposition and wanted their opposition to be noted for tonight's meeting. I was able to speak with the applicant, and of course we can get more information from Ms. Jackson, but she indicated that she has spoken with concerned citizens who actually would like to speak on and to indicate their support of her request. So there have been comments on both sides. Staff recommended approval of the applicant's request with the 11 conditions that are displayed on the overhead and are also included in your exhibit books. On May the 10th, the Zoning Advisory Board denied the applicant's request, and so she appeals to you tonight to overturn the Zoning Advisory Board's denial. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board before we get into the public hearing? Commissioner Prince?
Stacy, thanks for coming out. Would you take me through real quick the difference in a non-commercial kennel and a commercial kennel?
Yes, sir. So the applicant requested what amounts to both non-commercial kennel and commercial kennel. And so we advertised it that way since that was what was on the applicant's application for conditional use. Non-commercial kennel is unfortunately named. It's basically allowing a property owner or someone who has a residence to have more than 4 animals, and you're limited to 10, but it has to be that person's animals. If you'll be providing care or boarding other people's animals, you would need a conditional use for a commercial kennel. And so the applicant requested non-commercial kennel and pet day care for others, and so she needs a conditional use for commercial kennel. And we did recommend approval of that with the 11 conditions.
So we are hearing a case for the commercial kennel,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
not a non-commercial kennel.
That is correct.
And with a commercial kennel, does that implement all the various and sundries that we have for our typical site plan, meaning ADA compliant, parking, fire truck, the whole shooting match?
We will need to defer to those respective departments, the Department of Transportation as well as the Fire Department. What we have recommended as condition 11, which is if at any time the property ceases to be residential, then this conditional use expires. So we don't anticipate this property, which is at the back of a residential subdivision, as being built to the standards of a commercial facility.
Okay, so who can answer that question? Because I'm very familiar with commercial dog kennels. I
Yes,
have
sir.
designed many of them. And when we design them, we have to have, everything has to be compliant. 24-foot drive, curb and gutter, retention, sewage system. You have to have some kind of septic system going in from the dog kennels to capture the effluent. Handicap, ADA compliant all the way through, meaning handicap parking, handicap ramps, handicap sidewalks, all the way through. So what I'm trying to grasp here is, this sounds like we're trying to get a commercial kennel without doing the commercial kennel work, is what, and I'm trying to understand.
Yes, sir, I completely understand, and this is not supposed to be a typical commercial kennel such as Dogs and Suds on 138. This is meant to be an enterprise that is run out of the applicant's home in a residential setting and not redeveloped to the standards of a commercial facility.
But it still holds the title of commercial.
Technically, the title has to be commercial kennel because that's the way we named it in the Unified Land Development Code.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions before we begin the public hearing? Okay, Commissioner Barr.
Stacy, would they be under some kind of state requirements? Does the state regulate this type of facility, or?
For a typical dog kennel, I don't know that they would. However, we do have a condition that if at any time they want to breed animals or become an independent shelter for rescue pets, that they would be required to be regulated through the Department of Agriculture and specifically their Animal Protection Division.
Are they on a septic tank, or is there sanitary sewer already out there in that area?
It's my understanding that they are on a septic tank.
Any other questions from the board before we begin the public hearing? Okay, well, thank you. We will begin the public hearing now, and what we'll do at this time is allow up to 10 minutes collectively for individuals who want to speak in favor, including the applicant, to come at this time. So anyone, including the applicant, wishing to speak in favor of this, collectively, you all have a total of 10 minutes, so thank you. And as you approach, please state your name and address for the record as well.
Good evening. I
Good.
am Celia Jackson.
Good evening. Can you speak by the microphone so everyone can hear you? Thank you.
I am Celia Jackson, and I live at 140 Hickory Lake Trail. And I am the CFO of this All right, there was a few neighbors that spoke upon the concerns of traffic, animals getting out, and last, the noise level. After hearing the concerns of the neighbors, I would like to present, instead of presenting 30 dogs, which they had the first time, I'm saying 10 dogs, which 3 are my own. I'm willing to provide transportation, picking the dogs up and dropping the dogs off, so there'll be no more traffic. There'll be no other staff people working with me. It's just pretty much myself and my wife. I am going to be just dealing with small and medium-sized dogs, so there'll be no large dogs. I also just got approved for Rover.com. I don't know if you guys know about the pet sitting. You know, you can go out and walk them at their house, or you can bring them to your home. So I got approved for that, but I do still need the license to be able to operate in that capacity. Now I have developed a comprehensive safety plan. I'm dedicating to provide animals with the best possible care and escape prevention. I will make sure that each animal has a harness to keep better control of. No animals will be able to get out of the fence in area, which is up to 75 feet. Introducing animals will be to be playtime, and the group time is when we'll introduce new animals, and it'll be 3 to a group. There's going to be different temperaments, which will be high or low temperament, as well as quiet dogs. You got little noisy dogs and aggressive dogs. So I'll be dealing with them on a one-on-one basis as needed. Introduction will be in one of my quiet rooms. The animals will be able to be relaxed. Each animal will have a vest on with a chain. If they're going on a trail walk, I'll make sure they have a vest as well as a chain. And looking at the body language, if the animal has its tail between its legs, or if it's wagging, you know that the animal is comfortable in the environment. Feeding time, all animals will be fed alone. Animals that may show signs of stress will be dealt with one-on-one. Our goal is to make all animals feel welcome and loved in our care, putting our relaxation music and massage to help the dogs relax, keeping the owner update with pictures, texts, to let them know how their fur baby is doing. And I like to meet with the parent before they bring the dog in, so that they can get familiar with my setting and make sure that they have a schedule, routine, whatever they're dealing with at home. I'll keep them on that schedule. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Damian Massey, and I'm a good friend of Ms. Jackson. I'm also a business owner of a restaurant in Thomaston, Georgia. And the passion she had, I just came today for the passion she have for what she do, even with caring for my dog when I need her to. I actually closed my restaurant a couple hours early so I can come and be at this setting to speak on her behalf. As we all know, I don't know how other people take their pets, but pets to me are like my family, you know. So my little dog Tiny is like my son. So it's like if I put my child in a daycare center, you know, I want the utmost care, you know, for my child. I'm the same way about my dog. And Ms. Jackson I've taken my dog to several other places to get groomed, you know, with my busy schedule. Sometimes you got to drop your dog off and leave him there, you know, and come back and get him. You know, and with her, I oftentimes tease her and tell her, my dog comes home and he's so tired because he's played, you know, and her temperament with the dogs. I just, from experiences that you know, I've seen a lot of places who don't take a passion in what they do, or they just do it for the finances and money, you know. And out of all the people I've used, she's been the most affordable, and I believe that I have received more, you know, for the amount that she charges us for when she does it for us, than I would do it somewhere else, PetSmart or whatever. So I came because I admire her passion, and I wanted to speak and voice, you know, my favor in for her for this. Even we go to the same church. She's our youth pastor at our church, and she's just as passionate with the children as she is with the animals. And so I wanted to come to say, you know, that if there's anybody else that I know is more suitable and fit for this, for not just her animals, that was one of my biggest things, the way she cared for her animals. It's how you're going to care for mine, you know? So the passion she have, you know, it's amazing. And I just want to just come. It was just that heartfelt to me to say, you know what, I'm gonna close a couple hours early, and I'm going to be there, you know, to come and speak on your behalf, not just send a letter or send a text, but to show my presence. So I just think that she is great at what she does, and hopefully that the county would see that this is something great for the community and for where she is. And if you and you would have to be there at her property to understand when he talks about the property. You know, I love the setting because I don't want my dog to be in a position to have to run out on a busy street, get loose and get hit. You know, the property is beautiful. You know, it's in its own community surrounded by woods and the play area. So it's not like you're coming to a residential, my thing is coming to a residential home and I have to hear you complain because my dog has made a mistake in your house, but it has its own section, you know, and you would just have to be there to see the setup. And I just think it makes your dog feels more like they're at home, you know, than they're just in a commercial facility, you know, trying to get along with other dogs. So I just came to speak that, and I hope you guys take consideration what I had to say concerning Ms. Jackson.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Calling again, is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? We will now allow a total of 10 minutes collectively for those wishing to speak in opposition. And I do want to note for the record that there was a letter received from Mr. Johnny L. Pope in opposition that was directed to the commissioners. So at this time, if there is anyone wishing to speak in opposition, we ask that you please come.
Good evening. Carl Swenson, Stockbridge, the unincorporated part. I really do applaud the effort by Ms. Jackson. I know that she has a passion, and the person she brought talking for her displays that passion. That's all wonderful stuff. But there is a however. The however is we are now considering moving into the area of word art that allows you to make a commercial property out of residential property when it's not physically possible to do that. It is zoned residential. It will always be zoned residential. To do otherwise is a disservice to the neighbors, regardless of the business in there. People have been doing this for a long time, present company included. Start their business out of their home. Home offices are not uncommon, but they're usually, almost always, a business that doesn't require the changing of any particular infrastructure in order to do that. It doesn't involve any effect on the neighbors. If it did, neighbors would say something. This one does. It does. But more importantly, the most important thing, and thank you, Blake, for bringing that up, is this real stretch, this extreme loose wording used to change our perception of what a commercial enterprise should be in a residential neighborhood. So give that I hope you'll give that the most serious thought. I would hope also that should this not go Ms. Jackson's way, that does not in any way temper her enthusiasm for what she's trying to do. It's a service needed. It's just needed in a better physical location. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hi, I'm Lynn Lobus. I'm at 125 Hickory Lake Trail. I'm 2 doors from Miss Jackson, so there's a house in between. The concerns that we have, and we have several people here from my neighborhood today that are opposed to this going in our subdivision. One of the main reasons is the traffic. I'll just go ahead and nip that one. The traffic, if she were to bring 30 dogs in, who's to say if it's going to be 10 or 30? If she were to bring 30 dogs in, that's 120 passes up and down our street. Now, our neighborhood is a small neighborhood. It's 25 houses. It's quiet. It's wooded, and it's very comfortable. You know, we do have families that have multiple dogs, and you know, we all have the same feeling. My kids have doggy daycares that they take their dogs to, but we're opposed to it in our neighborhood. One main reason is the traffic. We have people that walk, and they walk their dogs, and they don't want to be, we have a big hill that goes over into our circle. She and I live in a circle. And so over that hill, you don't know what's in front of you. So if you have 30 cars passing back and forth daily, there's a chance that somebody's going to get hurt. And then we also have the noise issue. Can you imagine in your neighborhood if you had 30 dogs barking all the time? I mean, how horrible. Who can deal with that? The other thing I'm kind of interested in is, what is her credentials? Do you take a class online, or is she a veterinarian, or how do you get to that point where you service that kind of, those dogs and stuff? I'm interested also, we are as a group, as to what kind of sound barrier, how many trees has she got to cut down to put 2 parking spaces per employee. I understand she has 5 employees already, so she should have 10 parking places from what I understand from the last hearing. So how much land is she going to destroy to put this doggy daycare in there? Is she going to have signs at the end of the street that say doggy daycare kennel? Is she going to put signs at the street when you come off of 138 into our Hickory Lake subdivision? What type of signs is she going to put up? Who's going to come out and control and keep her in compliance? Is this going to be a monthly thing? Is the county going to come out and check everything monthly, quarterly, or how does that work? Those are questions that we have as well. How do you control how many dogs is there? She says 10, but how do we know it's not going to be 30? How do we know it's not going to be 40? How do we know it's not going to be a dog fighting arena where, you've heard that, where the people come and watch dog fights? How do we know that that's not going to develop in our neighborhood because of all the dogs there? Our neighborhood would be impacted tremendously by the traffic flow to and from her house. I would just like for y'all to consider, opposing this on our behalf of our neighborhood, our small, quiet neighborhood that everybody has so much enjoyed living at for years and years and years. And then now all of a sudden we're faced with a commercial type doggy daycare kennel. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Yes, my name's Dean McDonald. I live at 155 Sims Drive, which is, I was one of the first persons to buy property in this neighborhood. I've lived there since I built a house in 1990. I own a business, been in business for 40 years. Now, the way I look at this is that, I'm a dog lover, got a dog, but I know all of y'all live in a neighborhood. I feel like you probably do. Now, you got to ask yourself, would you be open to having a dog kennel next door neighbor? Now, this is a kennel. You can call it a dog daycare, whatever you want to call it. It's a dog kennel. And there's a dog kennel less than a mile from this location on 138, which, by the way, is commercial. And if you don't, you wouldn't let someone say, okay, well, I want to open up a hair salon in a house. I know you wouldn't do it because it's a commercial business. And so, I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, this is a residential neighborhood, and you're asking to put a dog kennel in the middle of it. And nothing against anyone that's trying to improve themselves, go in business, that's fine. But do it like everybody else. Find you some commercial property if you're going to run a commercial business and do it. Don't try to bring it into a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Phil Donald, and I live in this subdivision, probably about 5 houses down from where they're wanting to put this commercial kennel. And I do consider it a commercial kennel and a commercial business in a residential area. In our neighborhood, I don't know how many other people have seen them, but I've seen coyotes. When you've got coyotes running around, if a dog smells them, if it's a small dog, they're frightened and they start barking. And if it's a big dog, they're aggressive and they start barking. So I just can't believe with that many dogs there that you're not going to have periods of time when one of them starts, the rest of them do. I'm sure y'all have had, if you've got 1 or 2 dogs, if one of them starts barking, the rest of them are going to join right in. And that's, the noise is one of my concerns, and the traffic. Like I say, we have a nice, quiet neighborhood right there. It is a residential neighborhood. I believe this to be a commercial business, and no offense to the lady that's trying to do it. I applaud her for wanting to start a business, but if it is a commercial business, it needs to be in a commercial area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Could you state your name and address for the record, please? Could you state your name and address for the record again?
Phil Donald, 100 Hickory Lake Trail.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you. This now concludes our public hearing, so we'll ask the applicant to come forward now to address any, some of the questions that have been addressed and any questions from the board. Okay, do you have any comments regarding anything that was stated?
I do. I first stated that I'm definitely looking at my neighbors and what they were talking about the first time. That's why I said 10 dogs max, no traffic, because I am transporting dogs to and from, okay? And third of all, I have fences, I have runs. They will not be able to get out, so you don't have to worry about them running out into the street or anything like that, attacking anyone. And yes, it is a commercial kennel, but it's really a doggy daycare. If you came to my home and seen how I have it set up, it looks like a children's daycare because I have it set for like a daycare. It's not literally a kennel because I don't keep the dogs locked in cages. So it's more of a daycare setting.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Prince. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about your runs. You said you got the exterior runs.
Yes.
Concrete or grass? Dirt?
Grass.
Dirt.
Grass and dirt. I have one dirt, one grass.
Now, my question to you, and let me back up. Been around dogs a long time. Serious about dogs. Mm-hmm. Now, let me give you a scenario here. So I throw a litter of pups. I take these pups to the vet. Somebody wants to see one, and they set it down on the vet floor. I bring this pup home, let this pup down in my yard. I have one of my female dogs interact with this pup, and I take one of my female dogs to your kennel, have it groomed. You put it outside in your run. Well, what we all didn't know is when I set that pup down in the floor of that vet's office that it had parvo. And it took that parvo from the vet, brought it to my house, and I took that parvo to your house. Have you ever dealt with parvo?
No, I have not.
Parvo gets in the ground. It'll soak into the ground and you can't get it out. That's why when we design commercial kennels, we put them on concrete. Because I can take a concrete, I can pressure wash concrete, I can wash all the effluent into a sewer system, and it gets on out of there. Once Parvo gets into dirt, it is very, very difficult to get out, and it will wipe out every dog that you have, and you will keep it there for years if you're not careful. It'll come back up. I can tell you're passionate about dogs. I am not worried about you fighting dogs. I read people pretty well, and I can tell you, I appreciate your passion for dogs. I'd love for you to meet one of my dogs and we'll see how you get handle one of those. But I'm looking at this, and this to me is a commercial business. And I want to see you successful. I want to see you do the best that you can. But I have a huge issue if this was beside my house. And I'm very familiar with your subdivision. I'm in there all the time. It is a quiet subdivision. I know some folks there probably have more than 4 dogs. But I see this as a commercial business. And I got to tell you, I trained dogs at a doggy daycare for quite some time, many years. And it was melee. It was great. It was good times. Dogs everywhere. They were having a great time. Loud, but it was in an area that was commercial. Surrounding it was commercial. Parking lot was set up for commercial. It was all the ADA compliant. It had sewer system that they could tie into. With you would have to put in a different septic system. Again, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but to me, and I'm going to call it semantics, not wordsmith, but semantics. We're trying to say a non-commercial kennel for something that is commercial. And at this time, I'm telling you, I just can't support it at this time. But I do appreciate your passion, and I really want you to succeed. I might recommend starting with one of the vans or something, and then eventually getting up to a commercial piece of property. The doggy daycares I've worked in, some of them have been in strip shopping centers with small areas in the back. But, you know, I have to look at it with your property right, but also your neighbor's property rights.
I may say something.
There's just no way. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Yes.
I have a question for Stacy. I have the same concern that Commissioner Prince had about commercial versus non-commercial. So had the applicant had 10 dogs or less, this wouldn't have been an issue? Is that, because when I'm reading the minutes and it says that a non-commercial kennel allows up to 10 animals at one time. That's our policy?
Yes, but the definition also states that they have to be the owner's own dogs, and that if they're providing care for someone else's dogs, then they would have to get a conditional use for commercial kennel.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
One more comment.
Yes, Commissioner Prince.
So, I've dealt with this before. We had another very similar situation to this. And the problem that we ran into, it had been approved prior to me being on the board. The neighbors were unable to regulate how many dogs were coming. You know, you say 10, there could be 30 there, and we got into this cat and mouse game of sending code enforcement out, and they would not catch that many dogs, and it was very difficult to regulate because they were not in a commercial area. And I cannot have code enforcement coming to your house once a week to check on them. So,
If I must say, if you heard,
Go ahead.
if you heard the pastor say, I am a pastor as well. So honesty is the best policy, number one. And number two, when we talk about traffic, there are people in our community right there. As a matter of fact, 3 doors down from me that has an auto mechanic shop in their back with a garage doing work out of that. So are they licensed for auto mechanic shop? You know, who knows? But 3 doors from me, they have an auto mechanic shop. So when you talk about traffic's coming in and out of that address. And like I said before, there's no traffic with mine because I'm picking them up and bringing them back home. So you would never even know that I have 5 dogs in my house right now, like you wouldn't know. Because
Traffic, I'm not going to deny or approve something based on traffic. That's the one thing that we can't look at, and I'm not looking at the traffic. I'm looking at the amount of dogs that are there on a daily basis because of noise. I mean, I had a litter of pups. Neighbor called the code enforcement on me because it bark, 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 bark. If this was me and I was living there, I would be highly infuriated if this got passed. So, like I say, I appreciate you. I understand what you're trying to do, but I cannot support this at this time. And that's the only comment I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Chair, I'm going to make a motion to deny the request.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor to deny? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move now into our next public hearing regarding the resolution to adopt an amendment to the planning and zoning fee schedule, including the addition of a permit fee and application specific to filming and amending the fee for zoning verification letters. And we invite up Ms. Julie Yoder for that presentation.
Good evening, Chair and Board.
Good evening.
Planning and zoning staff are asking the board to approve a resolution amending our fee schedule to include the addition of a permit fee and application specific to filming. This would also include amending our fee for zoning verification letters. Briefly, why we're requesting this is because all events regarding filming are grouped into the special event category for permitting purposes. Special event permits only cost $50, which is typically insufficient for covering required resources, such as time and the use of county property. To accurately account for this, there should be a permit specific to filming with an associated fee schedule separate from that of a typical special event, which is what we're requesting. And with that being said, I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding this presentation? Okay. Well, this is a public hearing, and so at this time...
This is not a, sorry ma'am, this is not a public hearing.
Oh, okay, okay, good, all right. Well, I like that. Okay, well, so that this is a request for a resolution, no public hearing is required. Are there any, again, questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve the resolution for the permit fee for filming.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments from the board? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That resolution is approved. Okay, we'll now move into the SPLOST items. One regarding the resolution to approve the purchase of an LED sports field lighting for the North Ola Park. And we'll ask Ms. Lynn Plankin to make that presentation.
Good evening, Chair Wood, Commissioners. Before you is a resolution to approve the purchase of LED sports lighting for the North Ola Park expansion in McDonough, Georgia, using SPLOST 4 funds. The North Ola Park improvement is an approved SPLOST 4 project. The expansion is currently under construction in that I really should state that the plans are near approval, and then it will be starting construction here shortly. Musco Lighting has provided a quote of $264,235. Yes, $264,235 to furnish and install the LED sports lighting. The scope of work includes furnishing and installing all associated hardware, wiring, etc., required for the turnkey project. This is for one 300-foot radius baseball field and one 225-foot radius baseball field. And we are requesting authorization to use budgeted SPLOST 4 funds to make this purchase, utilizing the Sourcewell contract, which is formerly known as the NJPA contract, number 082114-MSL. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Prince.
Thank you. I don't see a photometric plan.
I do have a photometric plan. It's just not attached, as they did provide that.
Okay. And Did it look okay?
Yes.
Neighbors, I don't know, I'm not looking at I don't have a plat, I don't have anything.
There is no residential
Nothing around
around
it?
that area.
Okay, all right.
All right, other questions?
What I need to know?
Okay, I'm sorry, did you say something?
That's what I need to know.
Okay, all right, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, the resolution is approved. We'll now move into the next item regarding the purchase of a breathing air system for Fire Station Number 16 using SPLOST 4 funds. And thank you again for that presentation.
Yes, ma'am. The Fire Station 16 construction is complete, and there is a need for a breathing air system at that location. The breathing air system is used to refill the self-contained breathing apparatus, and this will provide a department-wide consistency, compatibility with departmental training, maintain the operational and maintenance standards for filling those tanks, and these tanks are used for safe entry to emergency situations for life and safety. The location of this equipment will provide strategic county placement for surrounding fire EMS apparatus usage, which will save time, fuel, maintenance, and mileage. And the Municipal Emergency Services has provided a quote to furnish and install the breathing air system at Fire Station 16 in the amount of $70,663.61. SPLOST is requesting authorization to use SPLOST 4 funds to make this purchase using the National Purchasing Partners contract, and that contract number, our ID number, is 417145.
Okay, we've heard the presentation. Are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Wilson?
This dollar amount does not cover a service contract.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, the resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. As previously noted, item 7C regarding the resolution regarding the construction of McDonough Parkway has been postponed. So we'll move now into item 8 regarding the resolution to approve a contract of aluminized corrugated metal pipe. And we invite Mr. Ron Burkhalter to make that presentation.
Chair, Commissioners, good evening. Department of Transportation requires aluminized corrugated metal pipe for various county projects. Having a contract for these items allows quick access to the product without the necessity of bidding each time the product is required, and guarantees prices will remain firm for the contract period. This request was bid through the Purchasing Department. The bid was posted on the county website and listed on the ACCG/GLGA website. 2 vendors submitted bids for the invitation to bid. Bid tabs are attached to the resolution. Cherokee Culvert was the lowest, most responsive bidder. DOT will be the primary user. However, the contract will be available to all county departments that require this commodity. Funding for this product is allocated within the requested department's budget. Materials will be ordered as required for approved projects. Have any questions?
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. Seems like Commissioner Prince has a question, so go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I call Commissioner Prince and it will come to Commissioner Barnes, so if you will.
All right. Try to be as kosher as I can with this. What is this aluminized corrugated metal pipe going to be used for?
Typically, what we'll use that is on dirt roads.
And the reason I ask, if I, Blake Prince, was going to install a road in Henry County, I am not allowed to use an aluminized corrugated metal pipe. I have to use concrete or HDPE. Concrete, much more expensive. I just want to make sure that we're all being on the same fair level. Putting an aluminized corrugated metal pipe under a road, it's going to fail at some time. So I'm just kind of curious. Private individuals can't use this. Why can the county?
Understand.
Rob, probably, most of these dirt roads, you're probably using them as driveway pipe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What gauge do we normally use? Do we use the 12 gauge or the 16 or 14?
It, depending on the fill that we have over the top of the pipe, okay, would dictate what gauge or thickness of pipe we need to put in.
And I don't know, I don't see it on here, but do we ever get any coated pipe?
We did at one time, Commissioner, and coated pipe has come a long ways of what it was, but we'd rather go with either the aluminized or go with the concrete pipe.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, other questions or comments from the board? Yes.
How much are we paying this company to remove the metal pipe?
The quote that you see is by the foot. Okay, so.
Do we have an estimate of how much money we're paying a company to remove?
No, ma'am, I do not. Again, it could be any department in the county, whether it be a stormwater department or someone else might be able to use this pipe also. But Commissioner, no, ma'am, I do not have a solid number of how much of this pipe that we're going to purchase in the next year.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So this is a bid that went out to say any of this type of piping, that we would get this company to come in and remove it. Have we ever had
No, this is purchasing of the pipe.
purchasing of it? Oh, okay,
This is purchase only.
okay,
The installation would be done with DOT crews
okay.
or stormwater crews or SPLOST crews or, no, ma'am, this is just for the actual purchase of the material.
To do what with it? Yeah.
Let me back up. Two questions. Let me finish Commissioner Clemens, and then we'll move to Commissioner Prince. The purchase or the proposal that you all are reviewing tonight is just for materials that staff will utilize when they're doing road improvements. It may be for a stormwater project, for a DOT project, and maybe for typically not for SPLOST projects, but more in line with our DOT and stormwater departments. And so this is just for materials for them to actually, or for piping, for them to actually utilize on county projects. Now, in terms of Commissioner Prince, I understand your concern is that the county is utilizing piping materials that the private sector and or Joe Smith, the common citizen, would not be able to utilize. That's something that we'll have to go back and revisit, and if it's the will of the board, we can table this until staff has an opportunity to look at that. This is a typical contract that we brought before to the board, so it is something that we've utilized on several of our county projects. But if it is something that conflicts with ordinances that we currently have in place or development regulations that we currently have in place, we certainly don't want to allow ourselves to do something that we're not allowing the public to do. We are bound by the same rules and regulations, and certainly that's something that myself and staff will need to discuss if there is a conflict.
All right, Commissioner Holmes.
We were pulling up the rusted corrugated pipe throughout the county and replacing it with cement. So why are we back purchasing the same type of pipe?
Again, Commissioner, some of the, and I'll give you an example of roads like Panola, okay, which is a paved road. When we go to either do reclamation on the road or asphalt paving, we're always going to replace that corrugated metal pipe with concrete pipe, okay? 100% of this pipe that we're talking about here is either driveway culverts or on dirt roads that haven't been improved yet. And again, if it's the will of the board, we can certainly take a look at this and we can certainly bring it back.
Yeah, other questions, Commissioner
I just
Clemens?
want to be fair, and whoever thought that we needed it, I just want to get an understanding of why it's before us tonight.
Well, it's before us, Commissioner, because these are materials that we need in order to do county projects. So the piping is materials that if our DOT or stormwater department is in areas where they've got to do some type of project, then we have to have the piping available to be able to utilize it. We aren't able to just In some cases, we can go and purchase materials that we need, but it's always easier for us to get it at a contractual price versus having to purchase it on an as-needed basis. One thing that I believe I heard from Ron is that we utilize this piping on a number of our dirt road and unimproved road projects. So that may explain why there may be a difference if you're a developer coming in to develop a subdivision where it's going to be an approved road where you're not able to utilize this type of material or this type of piping.
And I'll correct myself, it's either concrete or HDPE that we replace, okay? Just, yes, it's not always concrete, it could be HDPE.
It could be HDPE
Yes, I
if
just
the
want to clarify
velocity
that.
is slow
Yes.
enough. And
All right, other questions, Commissioner Barham?
Yes, Ron, if a builder was out there building a house and he was putting his own driveway pipe in, he wouldn't be required to put a concrete pipe in.
Correct.
And what would be the standard? Would he be allowed to put a 16 gauge or 14 gauge or 12 gauge pipe?
And again, it would depend on the fill that goes over the top of it. You know, for a typical driveway, I would say it's probably in the 16 gauge. Because there is a load, okay, and the load being vehicles going in and out of the driveway.
All right, Commissioner Prince?
we are talking about driveway pipe. That's different. I'm talking about pipe. This, if I caught wind, or if a developer caught wind, or anybody in the business caught wind of this pipe being used underneath a paved county road, even replaced, it's not going to be good for the county. But if it's going to be used for driveway crossings, that's one thing. Dirt roads, it is what it is. It ain't going to last that long, but hopefully we'll get that repaired. But that would be the only way I'm okay with it. But if anybody sees this pipe going in the ground underneath paving on a county project, it would be unacceptable.
And a number of our county projects are actually bidded out, and what we're trying to do is have our DOT and Stormwater Department work more on those smaller projects. And I feel confident that if our DOT and Stormwater is utilizing the piping, then it's more than likely for driveways.
Let me also bring up, if I'm running a pipe out from under, not under a road, if I'm running a pipe, let's say parallel to a road outside the curb and gutter, Henry County still requires me to make that pipe HDPE if the velocity is low, or concrete, by the way.
And that was the question I was about to ask as well. Okay. Is it, so, sounds like, okay, let me hear Commissioner Clemens.
I was just gonna make a motion.
Okay, so you're calling question. Okay, so at this time, the floor is now open for a motion.
I would like to make a motion to deny this resolution.
We have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor to deny? Any to oppose? And I'm abstaining because I would like more information on this before I vote on it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chairman, I believe you asked for a motion to deny, and I think there were 3 in denial, but you never asked for those in favor of the request.
And I heard, we had 2 that wanted to be in favor, and I abstained because I
Okay, I'm
wanted more
sorry, I missed that
information.
It was
So-
3 that denied it.
Right, but we need 4 for the motion to
But you
move
So
forward.
what was your vote, Chairwoman?
You abstained.
I abstained because I wanted more information.
If the commissioner abstains, that doesn't count toward the quorum, so a 3-2.
Okay,
And an
all right,
abstention would be a
okay.
majority, so the motion to deny passes.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, and I respect that. So thank you for the clarification. Okay, so it is denied. Thank you. Okay, so we'll now move into our next item from Facilities Maintenance regarding a resolution to award pricing for elevator inspection and maintenance services, and we invite Mr. Hutch Purvis up for that presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a request to approve the annual contract and inspection and maintenance of all the non-Schindler elevators located in Henry County facilities using the U.S. Communities contract. Henry County is a participating member of the U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance. It is recognized as a leading government purchasing cooperative and provides procurement resources and solutions to local and state government agencies. U.S. Community is also endorsed by the ACCG. Departmental personnel recommend award of the inspection and maintenance services for the non-Schindler elevators at a unit price with no fixed quantities for 1 year and 2 mutually agreed upon annual extensions to Cone A. Prices remain firm for the contract. Kone is the current elevator inspection and maintenance service supplier for the U.S. Communities contract. And that's U.S. Communities contract number 201414653. Any questions?
Presentation, so are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the resolution is approved. We're now moving to our next item from the county attorney regarding the resolution to approve an amendment to a quitclaim deed between the city of McDonough and Henry County relative to the Charlotte mural located in the Polk building.
Good evening. Back in 2015, the county conveyed the Polk building on the square to the city of McDonough as part of a large exchange of property. The city is performing some pretty extensive renovations to that building. Located within the building, if you ever walk in it, right inside the front door, to the right, I think, is an old mural. It was put there back in the 1940s. It is called Cotton Gin Mill. It was painted by an artist named Jean Charlotte, and it has some historical significance in the art world. When the county owned that building, we were under a contract with the United States government. The federal government owns that artwork. We were under contract with that federal government, with the General Services Administration, to maintain the mural, to keep it open for public viewing, and do a number of things. When we conveyed it to the city, we got authorization from the GSA to convey it to the city. The GSA has now, as part of the city's renovations, asked the city to perform some additional obligations, some that we didn't have. And the best way to accomplish that for all of us is to amend the deed where we conveyed the property to the city and include those obligations as part of their deed, as part of the deed we conveyed to them. And specifically what the GSA is requiring is that the public have access to the property, that the public be allowed to see the mural. Now, that doesn't mean 24/7 all the time. It just means when the building's open, has to be made available for the public. The city has to have a plaque or some other indication identifying what that artwork is, the name of the artist and things like that. They have to agree to protect and maintain the artwork, and there's a set of guidelines they're going to have to follow. The GSA will perform periodic inspections, and the city has to assist them in performing the inspections. There's actually a self-certification requirement. Periodically, the city has to essentially check off a number of boxes, ensuring that they're complying with all of those restrictions. And if the city ever decides to get rid of that artwork, has to go to the General Services Administration and get the federal government's approval. So the request to us came from the General Services Administration asking us to change our deed to the city to impose those obligations. The city has already approved this. They've already executed the amended deed, and the resolution before you today will authorize the chair to execute an amended deed. And just so you know, there's absolutely no obligation on the county. This will have no obligation. There's no circumstance where that obligation falls back to the county.
Okay, we've heard the presentation. Are there any questions? I just have one point of clarification. This mural was included in the original quitclaim deed, correct?
Yes, we conveyed it to the city, but the GSA didn't give us this list of requirements. So what we put in the original deed was simply they'll protect and maintain the same way we had to do it. And then the GSA, because it's the federal government, it took them 3 years to get around to dealing with it. And it also because the city's engaged in this maintenance or this renovation of the building. And I expect there's been a lot of communication.
Great, thank you. Okay, other questions from the board? Okay, so the resolution has been presented. The floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The resolution is approved. We'll now move into the added item from Technology Services, and this is regarding a resolution to approve the purchase of peripheral computing equipment for Tyler ERP software deployment. And we welcome Mr. Skip Floyd up for that presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, board members.
The item before you will allow Technology Services to purchase needed equipment for the testing phase of the Tyler Project Financial Module implementation. This includes cashiering equipment, desktop scanners, AP equipment, check printers, and that type of deal. This will be purchased from CDWG via NJPA contract 100614 for a total of $159,546.76. Funds are available in the current year Technology Services budget, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, we've heard the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Okay, we'll now move into our public comment section, and we welcome citizens to voice their county-related concerns and opinions that are not listed on the agenda. And and all persons wishing to speak during the public comments must sign in with the county clerk and complete the public comment speaker form prior to the beginning of the meeting. And each individual will be allowed up to 5 minutes to respectfully present their thoughts and concerns. So we'll look to our county clerk to identify the public comments for this evening.
We have one speaker tonight, Chair. It is Carl Swenson.
Good evening, Board.
Good
Chairman.
evening.
Carl Swenson, of course, from Stockbridge, the unincorporated part. I want to talk a little bit about oversight tonight and why people in this county have felt the need to become a part of that. What we've brought to the table have been things that needed to be said, but the board doesn't want to touch. Items that have involved massive loss of revenue, misappropriation of tax dollars, which is public money. We earn that money, not for you to take it. But there was one that happened here tonight that, whether by a typo or not, should be a common practice, and that is public hearing on things like starting new taxes. Last time I checked, we kind of encouraged business, not discouraged it. You're already receiving monies, just not enough. What is enough? There's always workarounds that we never know. You can probably raise the same amount of money by looking for the vehicles involved in this and issuing traffic citations. I bet the fees taken from that would probably increase the coffers about the same amount of money. But to impose a new tax without the public's comment, without our approval, seems rather presumptuous on your part. But that's why we need oversight. And we also need it because there's something going on. And it's an epidemic. I've had the grave misfortune to be involved in this. Research is uncovering very, very frightening facts, details that lead to some conclusions that point to involvement by people in high positions, be they appointed or elected, in government. When the time comes that they need to be held accountable for their actions, we see happening here at the local level what is on display at that cesspool up there called DC. They protect one another, as you protect the people in this county that may be involved in this heinous crime of pedophilia. I never knew that this was as big an issue as it is right now. But it's not going to go away. And when people that are trying to assist you to do the proper job, to help you to maintain your sense of honor, they should be taken a little bit more serious. And that's what this is about. Because I came to you, June, and asked you specifically for help. I did. And you know, you did what you were responsible to do. I will give you that. You sloughed it off. But you turned it over to the group that was supposed to do something. They didn't. Well, excuse me. They did. But they in turn did the same thing and moved up the the chain of command, the feeding levels. Anyway, nothing will happen. People are still remaining free in this county to continue to put our kids in peril, in jeopardy. And nothing is being done. So I'm very upset. And you, of all people, should understand how the citizens of this county, when they come here to speak to you, do so because they have legitimate concerns. This is one huge concern. So I want you to rethink that. And I ask you for one thing in particular, Ms. Wood. Please, reconsider that, okay? Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that concludes our public comments for this evening. So we will now move into the approval of the minutes for May 22nd workshop meeting, and also for the June 5th regular Board of Commissioners meeting. Were there any changes or revisions to the minutes? Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We're now moving to the commissioners' comments. Are there any commissioners at this time wishing to make any comment? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to the county manager's comments. Okay, I'm sorry.
This with regards to the pay classification study. I know that study is complete, but are we going to make that study public? You know, with us moving forward, voting on the millage rate next week, we kind of need to understand, you know, where the raises are going and the individual people that are will be moved in different positions.
The class income study has not been completed. We've actually just received an initial draft recommendation from our consultant team. Over the last couple of weeks, our staff has been working closely with our HR team to assess the recommendations, more particularly some classifications. So we are looking to bring that to the board for discussion and/or a recommendation in August, and then we will look to have a final vote of the board in September. There's a lot of information that went into the development of that draft proposal, and so at this time what we're doing is trying to go back and make sure that all of the information that has been provided is in line with the intent of the class income study. But Commissioner, you are absolutely correct in terms of making sure that the funding and the necessary allocations are in place. One thing that we wanted to do as a result of the class income study is to certainly not make this a one-year study. As you know, a number of our employees that have been here for a number of years haven't seen a substantial increase in their salaries, and so that is something that we had to take a long, hard look at. But we also recognize the importance of compensating those employees for years of service, and so that is one thing that our team has been working diligently on to make sure that when we present to the board, it is a quantitative presentation, which not only includes the reclassification of the positions, but also includes looking at the years of service as an element, and then making sure that we can fund it not only for this fiscal year, but for future years.
It will probably be difficult for me to vote on the millage if I don't see how those funds are going to be allocated.
I can't hear. I'm sorry.
If I don't know how those funds are going to be allocated, it's going to be difficult for me to vote on the millage.
Understand, but understand also that the budget that was presented to the board for FY19 was based on the current millage of the 12.733. And so that's how the budget was developed. The actual increases for the class and comp study, we did have a rough number that we did discuss with the board during our one-on-one sessions in terms of a low number and a high number. And so in the current budget that was approved by the board, you all did not approve a line item for the class income study. That was something that was going to come back to you all for a final decision once we were able to have a definitive number. But we will work hard to make sure that we do get something to you all prior to the millage rate meeting. But again, I do want the board to understand that the number for the class and comp study is not included in the budget. The millage rate number is based on the budget that was approved by the board based on that current 12.733.
Do we have any idea what percentage of employees will get increases?
I hate to publicly say it, but I will tell you that we are working hard to make sure that more than half of our employees, either by reclassification of position and or years of service, will see some form of an increase.
Any other questions, Commissioner Holmes? Okay, any other comments from the board? Okay.
If not, Commissioners, I do have 2 items for County Manager comments this evening. I will ask Dante Gibbs to come to the board as he needs to read into the record an annexation request for the City of Locust Grove. And then I will ask Patrick Jogstetter to just update the board on the City of Eagles Landing litigation.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. The county received notification of annexation from the legal representation for the property owners located at the corner of Georgia Highway 42 and County Line Road. They are pursuing this annexation through the Georgia Annotated Code 100% method, and the properties are currently zoned commercial and industrial. The tracts that abut Highway 42 are actually C1, and then the tracts that actually abut the frontage property are zoned M1. It is the intent of Locust Grove to maintain that zoning. The properties that will be annexed into the City of Locust Grove will be contiguous in that they abut and touch property that is already within the city limits of Locust Grove here, and I'll point to it. And with that said, we have no objection after reviewing this annexation request, and so no action is needed by the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as you all know, after the Georgia legislature passed the legislation to call for a referendum to create the City of Eagles Landing, the City of Stockbridge filed a lawsuit to prevent that from happening, and they allege that the 2 acts that the General Assembly passed were unconstitutional. Because of a quirk in Georgia law about a theory we refer to as immunity, sovereign immunity, the only people they had to sue were the 6 of you and the members of the Board of Elections. And the reason they sued those 2 groups was, as far as you guys are concerned, is to prevent you from budgeting or taking any other action to help the Board of Elections conduct the election. And the reason they sued the Board of Elections was to prevent them from conducting the election. So we have answered the complaint and done what we have to do, but we have also, as you all are aware, both publicly and in court, have not taken a position on whether or not those laws are constitutional. It's not the Board of Elections' place to make that decision. The Board of Elections has to conduct whatever election the law calls for it to conduct. And the board made the decision that this was really a matter for others to litigate, not us. So we've taken a neutral position. There is a group of 3 residents in the Eagles Landing area filed a motion to intervene into the lawsuit. They want to become parties to the lawsuit so they can argue their position with respect to the law. And there was a hearing on it this morning, and the judge this morning authorized those 3 citizens to become part of the lawsuit. Now, what's going to happen is the lawyers for the city of Stockbridge are going to say that these 2 acts are unconstitutional. The lawyers representing these 3 citizens are going to argue that the law is proper and constitutional. And the argument I'm going to make, and I've made this known to the court already, is that all we're interested in is a quick resolution, because there's a lot of work has to happen at the Board of Elections before this referendum comes up, and we don't want to be in doubt about what to do. So we have informed the court of that. There will be a hearing tomorrow on an immediate, what we call an interlocutory injunction, that the request from the city of Stockbridge is to enter an injunction now preventing anything to happen with respect to the election. And again, the lawyers for Stockbridge and lawyers for the Eagles Landing Group will make the constitutional argument. We're going to let them have that. It's not our law. We didn't adopt that law. The legislature did. We were hopeful, I was hopeful, that the Attorney General's office would intervene. It's their law. They should intervene and defend it, in some people's opinion and in my opinion, but they've elected not to do so, which isn't uncommon. They don't get involved in every one of these. So we're gonna sit back and let them fight the constitutional battle. My only goal is to ensure that the decision is made quick enough so we know how to act and how to respond. I don't think this board's going to have to do anything. I don't think this board will have to do anything, obviously, unless and until there's a referendum, and unless and until that referendum is approved. At that point, this board will be dealing with the new city. But short of that, for purposes of this litigation, there's nothing this board needs to do. And there's nothing you should do any differently than you're already doing. But we did want to update the board. And I know this is a matter that a lot of people are interested in. There's really no reason to do this anywhere but in the public. And I'll update the board members tomorrow after we get a ruling, assuming we get a ruling tomorrow. Sometimes a complicated issue like this, a judge won't rule right away. He may take a few days. I expect we'll get a ruling quickly. The hearing's not until tomorrow afternoon, so I don't expect that we'll hear anything, at best late tomorrow, but more than likely later in the week. So, but we did want to update you. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
All right, are there any questions from the board? Okay, thank you. So is that all of the county manager comments and county attorney?
Yes, that's all.
Okay, very good. We'll now move into the upcoming meetings and events. The July 24th regularly scheduled workshop meeting has been canceled, but the Board of Commissioners has scheduled call meetings on July 24th for the purpose of the public hearing regarding the millage rate, and that will be on July 24th at 9 a.m. And then there will be another public hearing on the millage rate on July 24th at 6 p.m. And again, the one at 6 p.m. will have the public hearing on the millage rate in addition to the Community Block Grant Program Annual Action Plan for FY 2018. On July 31st at 6 o'clock p.m., there will be a public hearing and adoption of the millage rate. And then on August 7th, the regular Board of Commissioners meeting is canceled. And then on August 21st, there will be a regular Board of Commissioners meeting at 6:30 p.m. So at this time, we've completed the agenda. We'll now call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone.